we will examine a case of a father who was convicted for the death of his own daughter. The trial shocked the nation, and the evidence presented in court was both disturbing and difficult to comprehend. The tragedy of this case has left many asking how and why something like this could happen. Join us as we explore the devastating effects of child abuse and neglect, and how it can lead to unimaginable consequences. Let's get started. The case of Diamante Ellis and the death of his 9-month-old daughter, Devyn Ellis, has been a highly publicized and tragic incident. The incident occurred in 2014 when Devyn was taken to INOVA Loudoun Hospital Cornwall campus on October 2. Devyn was found to be unconscious and was airlifted to Children's National Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Soon after, a representative from the Child's National Medical Center contacted Loudoun County Child Protective Services based on suspicious injuries to the child. Devyn was removed from life support on October 5, 2014. An autopsy conducted by the District of Columbia's Office of the Chief Medical Examiner determined the official cause of death to be blunt impact head trauma with subdural hemorrhage, according to the Office of the Commonwealth's Attorney in Loudoun County. Diamante Ellis was found guilty of felony homicide, child abuse, and neglect in the death of his daughter after a 7-day jury trial on March 23rd. The jury found evidence presented by Assistant Commonwealth's Attorney Donald P. Goodman III and Eric M. Shamus, including a recorded interview between Ellis and Leesburg Police Department detectives, and witness testimony, including scientific and numerous medical experts who concluded that the baby's injuries could have only occurred from abusive actions. On the day of the sentencing, Judge Jeanette Irby said that she wouldn't deviate from the jury's recommendation that Ellis serve 13 years, 5 years for child abuse and neglect, and 8 years for felony homicide. In addition, Ellis will be subject to 3 years parole with supervision. Prior to sentencing, the court heard from 2 of Ellis's sisters, who testified about his character and positive influence on their lives. Ellis himself spoke briefly before the judge, maintaining his innocence and stating that he had always been a good father and a loving person. Sentencing has been met with mixed reactions from the community and Ellis's family members. Ellis's aunt, Regina Watson, claimed that her nephew could not have inflicted abuse on his daughter in the weeks leading up to her hospitalization, and that he had not seen the baby in 2 months. Meanwhile, Ellis's mother, Monica Ellis, expressed frustration with the court's decision and indicated that the family would be appealing the verdict. The case of Diamante Ellis and the death of his daughter has highlighted the tragic consequences of child abuse and neglect, as well as the importance of protecting vulnerable children from harm. The sentencing of Ellis sends a strong message that those who cause harm to innocent children will be held accountable for their actions. One key piece of evidence presented in court was a recorded interview between Ellis and Leesburg Police Department detectives. In the interview, Ellis claimed that he had accidentally dropped the child, but the prosecution argued that the baby's injuries could not have resulted from a simple fall. The prosecution called upon numerous medical experts who testified that Devyn's injuries could only have occurred from abusive actions. An autopsy conducted by the District of Columbia's Office of the Chief Medical Examiner determined the official cause of death to be blunt impact head trauma with subdural hemorrhage. The prosecution also presented 2 photos as evidence. The first photo showed the bathroom where Ellis claimed he had dropped his daughter, but Judge Jeanette Irby pointed out that there was no dishevelments of items in the bathroom, which indicated that there was no urgency in the situation. Irby also noted that the tiled floors in the bathroom was unlikely to have caused a blunt injury. The second photo showed a bedroom where Devyn had been looked after by her father, which was filled with many objects not considered to be safe for a 9-month-old. Overall, the prosecution's case was built on the testimony of experts who presented evidence that Devyn's injuries could not have been caused accidentally, as well as the discrepancies between Ellis's account of events and the physical evidence found on the scene. Despite the defense's claim that Ellis was a loving father who had accidentally dropped his child, the jury found him guilty of felony homicide, child abuse, and neglect. Ellis was sentenced to 13 years in prison. During the trial, Diamante Ellis's defense claimed that he had accidentally dropped his daughter, Devyn, leading to her injuries and eventual death. Ellis testified that he was carrying the baby to the bathroom when he slipped on a bath mat, causing Devyn to fall from his arms and hit her head on the tiled floor. Additionally, the prosecution presented evidence that the environment in which Devyn was being cared for is not safe for a 9-month-old. The second photo presented during the trial showed Devyn's bedroom, which was filled with objects that were considered unsafe for a baby of her age. This evidence supported the prosecution's argument that Ellis was neglectful and abusive towards his daughter. During the sentencing hearing, two of Diamante Ellis' sisters took the stand to speak on his behalf. The first sister, who was 17 years old at the time, described Diamante as a really good brother and a role model who had never hurt anyone. She spoke of their close relationship and how Diamante had always been there for her when she needed him. The second sister, Kiana Ellis, testified that she had been bullied throughout her life and had attempted suicide on several occasions. She described how Diamante had always been there for her and helped her through some of her darkest moments. Kiana praised her brother for his kind and loving nature and for their positive impact he had on her life. Several other family members spoke on Diamante's behalf, including his mother and his aunt. They described him as a loving and caring father who had always been involved in his daughter's life. They argued that Diamante could not have caused the injuries that led to Devyn's death, and that the evidence presented in court was insufficient to support the prosecution's case. After hearing the testimony of Ellis' sister and considering the sentencing guidelines and evidence presented in the case, Judge Jeanette Irby ultimately decided to uphold the jury's recommendation of a 13-year jail term for Ellis. During the sentencing, Judge Irby acknowledged Ellis' charming personality and his family's positive characters references. However, she emphasized the acute pain and trauma that 9-month-old Devyn Ellis must have experienced before she lost consciousness and ultimately passed away. The judge also pointed out that the evidence presented in the trial did not support Ellis' defense claims of an accidental drop. Specifically, she referred to two photos used as evidence, one showing the bathroom where Ellis claimed to have dropped his daughter, and the other showing the bedroom where Devyn had been looked after by her father. According to Judge Irby, nothing in the photos indicated any dishevelment of items or any urgency that would support the defense's theory. Furthermore, the judge noted that the tiled floors in the bathroom was unlikely to have caused a blunt injury and that the bedroom was filled with many objects that were not considered safe for a 9-month-old. During the sentencing hearing for Diamante Ellis, the judge discussed the potential cause of Devyn Ellis' injuries and the safety of the environment she was in. The judge reviewed two photos that were used as evidence during the trial, one of the bathroom where Ellis claimed to have dropped his daughter, and another of the bedroom where she had been looked after by her father. The judge noted that there was no evidence of dishevelment in the bathroom, which would be expected if the baby had been dropped there. She also commented on the tiled floor in the bathroom, which she stated was unlikely to have caused a blunt injury. In addition, the judge discussed the items in the bedroom, which she deemed unsafe for a 9-month-old baby. After the sentencing, Diamante Ellis' aunt, Regina Watson, spoke to reporters outside the court and expressed disbelief that her nephew could have inflicted abuse on his daughter in the weeks leading up to her hospitalization. Watson claimed that Diamante had not seen the baby in 2 months. Ellis' mother, Monica Ellis, also spoke to reporters and said that the court was not willing to hear her family's side of the story. She stated that they plan to appeal the decision. It is unclear what specific grounds they plan to appeal on. Devyn Ellis' mother was not present in court for the sentencing, and no one from her side of the family was available for comment. It is not uncommon for the family of a convicted individual to express disbelief or disagreement with the verdict and sentencing, and to pursue an appeal in hopes of having the conviction overturned or the sentence reduced. However, it is ultimately up to the courts to review the evidence and make a determination. However, the absence of Devyn's mother and her family's lack of comment may suggest that they have chosen to remain private about the matter. Losing a child is an unimaginable tragedy, and it is possible that they are still processing their grief and do not wish to discuss the case publicly. Alternatively, it is possible that they may have been satisfied with the verdict and chose not to comment. Without further information, it is impossible to determine the exact reason for their absence and lack of comment. Thank you for watching our coverage of the sentencing of Diamante Ellis for the death of his 9-month-old daughter. Don't forget to subscribe for more updates.